2 tests, one for an American coin, one for a British coin. The American test requires a bright desk lamp and a magnifying glass. The British test requires something that is probably already stuck to your refrigerator right now. Both take under 10 seconds, and depending on what each test reveals, you could be holding something worth millions of dollars. Today, we are covering 6 specific coins across 2 countries. 3 American, 3 British. We're going from least valuable to most valuable in each group. The finale of the American set will make you order a box of quarter rolls this week. The finale of the British set will make you go find a magnet right now. Do not skip ahead. Both reveals are worth waiting for. To understand why a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar is worth collecting, you have to understand what happened to Kennedy halves in the decade before it was minted. And that story begins not with the coin itself, but with the American public and its relationship with silver. When the Kennedy half-dollar was first released in 1964, it was 90% silver. Americans loved it so much they immediately pulled every single one out of circulation and saved them. The coin was supposed to circulate. It never did. The mint struck hundreds of millions of them, and they all disappeared into jars and sock drawers within weeks of release. This created a silver coin hoarding crisis that forced the United States government to act. In 1965, the silver content was slashed to 40% to discourage hoarding. It did not work. Americans hoarded those too. So in 1971, the mint stripped the silver entirely, and the Kennedy half became the copper-nickel clad coin we know today. No silver, no melt value, no reason to hoard it, and that created something unexpected. Because Americans stopped saving Kennedy halves the moment the silver was gone, most clad Kennedy halves from the early 1970s were spent, lost, worn, or destroyed. The 1973 Kennedy half-dollar entered circulation and just disappeared into the economy. Very few survived in truly pristine condition, and that scarcity of high-grade examples is exactly what drives collector demand today. Here is the specific thing to look for on a 1973 Kennedy half. On the obverse, the Kennedy portrait. Side, examine the area just below the neck truncation, where the designer's initials GR appear in tiny letters. On certain 1973 dies, those initials show a doubling that is visible under magnification. This is a documented die variety that specialists in Kennedy halves have cataloged and assigned a premium to. Also look at the reverse. The 1973 Kennedy half features the presidential seal, the eagle with the shield, the arrows, and the olive branch. On high-quality strikes from 1973, the detail in the eagle's feathers is extraordinary. On weaker strikes, the feathers merge together and lose definition. That strike quality difference is exactly what separates a common 1973 half from a premium. Example, grading service population data tells an interesting story about the 1973 Kennedy half. The number of examples certified at MS65 or above is surprisingly low, lower than many collectors expect for a coin minted in the millions. That low certified population in gem grades is what keeps prices healthy. A PCGS MS65 example sold for $48 at a Great Collections auction in 2021. An NGC MS66 specimen brought $82 at Heritage Auctions in 2022, and the 1973 S Proof in PR69 has traded hands for over $120 among specialists. The 1973 Kennedy half-dollar is a coin whose value comes not from what it is made of, but from what happened to it, and what did not happen to it. The ones that survived in perfect condition are genuinely scarce, and the collector market reflects that. Now let us move on to a coin that is even more misunderstood. If you ask 10 Kennedy half-dollar collectors which year is the most underrated, a surprising number of them will say 1977, and the reason has everything to do with how collectors overlook it, and almost nothing to do with the coin itself. Here is the perception problem. The 1977 Kennedy half sits in the middle of what collectors call the clad desert, the stretch of years from 1971 through the mid-1980s, where Kennedy halves had no silver content, were produced in large numbers, and were generally dismissed as common low-value pieces. Most collectors skip right over 1977 on their way to the earlier silver years. And that wholesale dismissal has created a situation where the genuinely scarce high-grade 1977 halves are priced well below where they should be. Let us start with what makes 1977 specifically interesting. The Philadelphia Mint produced Kennedy halves in 1977 without a mint mark, a tradition that would continue for this denomination. But within that Philadelphia production run, numismatic researchers have documented at least 3 distinct die varieties based on differences in the position of the designer's initials, the spacing of the date numerals, and the depth of the relief on Kennedy's portrait. The most collectible of these varieties shows a slightly stronger strike on the hair, above Kennedy's ear, an area that is notoriously difficult to bring up fully on clad coinage because of the metal flow dynamics during striking. On the strongest die variety from 1977, every hair strand in that area is individually distinct under magnification. On weaker die varieties, that same area looks soft and merged. The difference in collector value between a weak strike and a strong strike on the 1977 Kennedy half can be $50 or more. Now here is the specific examination technique that sets experienced collectors apart. When you look at a 1977 Kennedy half, do not just check the high points for wear. Instead, look at the relationship between the portrait and the field, the flat open area surrounding the design. On a true gem quality 1977 half, that field will be almost completely free of the tiny nicks, scratches, and contact marks that accumulate during the coin's journey from the mint through counting machines, bank bags, and commercial handling. Those contact marks are called bag marks in numismatic terminology, and they are the primary reason that high-grade clad Kennedy halves are harder to find than most people think. The coins were struck and immediately dumped into large canvas bags for transport. The bag marks that resulted from coin-on-coin contact during that process are permanent and irreversible. A coin that somehow avoided serious bag marks is genuinely rare and genuinely valuable to collectors who understand the series. Price-wise, a 1977 Kennedy half with heavy bag marks and significant wear is worth face value. A lightly circulated example brings $2 to $5. But a truly clean uncirculated example in MS64 condition, with minimal bag marks, full luster, and a strong strike, is worth $12 to $25. In MS65 gem condition, the price jumps to $30 to $60, and a 1977D in MS66, certified by PCGS or NGC, has brought over $100 at specialist auctions because of how few examples exist at that grade level. The 1977 Kennedy half dollar is exactly the kind of coin that rewards the collector who pays attention when everyone else is looking the other way. All right, now for the finale, the coin that brings everything together. The 1972 Washington quarter with the double die obverse error. If you have been watching coin channels for any length of time, you have probably heard this coin mentioned. But today, we are going deeper than the surface. We are going to tell you exactly how this error happened inside the Philadelphia Mint, why it was not caught before millions of coins were struck, and most importantly, the specific bankroll hunting strategy that serious collectors use right now to find these coins. In the wild, let us go back to 1972. And inside the Philadelphia Mint, coin dies are not made from scratch for every production run. They are created using a multi-step hub and die transfer process. A master hub, a raised relief version of the design, is pressed under enormous hydraulic pressure into a master die, which is then used to create working hubs. which in turn create the working dies that actually strike the coins. This process normally happens cleanly and precisely, but in 1972, something went wrong during the creation of at least one working die for the Washington quarter obverse. The hub was impressed into the die, then the die was removed, slightly repositioned, and impressed a second time. Perhaps it shifted during the process. Perhaps there was a mechanical fault. The exact cause has never been officially confirmed by the Mint. What is confirmed is the result: a working die with two overlapping impressions of the design at slightly different angles. And that die went into production and struck an unknown number of quarters before anyone noticed. Now consider the scale. The Philadelphia Mint was striking millions of quarters a day in 1972. Quality control checks were periodic, not continuous. By the time the double die was identified and that specific die was pulled from production, a significant number of double die quarters had already been mixed into the general coin supply and shipped to banks across the country. Those coins spread into circulation and have been slowly surfacing ever since. Here's the bankroll. Hunting strategy that gives you the best realistic chance of finding one. Order boxes of quarter rolls from your bank. Not just one roll, a full box. Each box contains 50 rolls of 40 quarters each, for a total of 2,000 quarters per box. Go through every single coin. You are looking specifically at 1972 quarters with no mint mark, Philadelphia issues only. Denver quarters from 1972 carry a D and are not the variety you are hunting. When you find a 1972 Philadelphia quarter, hold it under a bright directional light. A desk lamp works better than overhead lighting. And look at the top of the coin. The word Liberty runs along the upper rim. On a normal 1972 quarter, each letter is clean and crisp with sharp edges. On a double die example, each letter casts a shadow. You will see a second set of letters slightly offset from the first, like the word was printed twice on the same page with the paper shifted slightly between prints. If Liberty passes the test, examine In God We Trust. The doubling on the motto is slightly less dramatic than on Liberty, but still visible on strong examples. Then look at the date. On a strong double die 1972 quarter, the 1 at the start of the date will show a notch or shelf at its base, and the 9 will appear slightly open at the top compared to a normal strike. Now let us talk about what happened when these coins started reaching the collector. Market, the earliest documented examples of the 1972 Washington quarter double die appeared in the mid-1970s. When sharp-eyed roll hunters started noticing the anomaly, word spread through the numismatic community slowly at first and then rapidly as more examples were authenticated. By the 1980s, the variety had its own listing in major reference catalogs. By the 1990s, it was a recognized key variety that every serious quarter collector wanted. The auction record history tells the story of growing collector appreciation. In the early 2000s, a circulated 1972 double die quarter in fine condition might sell for $20 to $30. By 2010, those same circulated examples were bringing $50 to $80. By 2020, the market had matured significantly. Circulated fine to very fine examples were trading for $60 to $120, and uncirculated examples had crossed into genuinely serious territory. At a Heritage Auctions event in 2021, a PCGS MS-64 red-brown certified 1972 double die Washington quarter sold for $420. Later that same year, a PCGS MS-65 example, one of the finest known, brought $875 at a Great Collections auction, setting a new benchmark for the variety. That is $875 for a quarter that was struck by mistake, spent, and rediscovered by a collector who knew exactly what to look for. The most important thing to understand about the 1972 double-die Washington quarter is that it is not finished being found. Collectors pull these out of circulation regularly. They show up in quarter rolls, in change jars, in estate collections, in old coin folders. The total number that were struck is unknown. The total number still unaccounted for is also unknown. What is known is that every year new examples surface, and every year the collector market pays well for them. The 1972 Washington quarter double-die obverse. It started as a mistake inside a government mint. It became one of the most hunted varieties in modern American coin collecting. And for the collector who finds one in a bankroll today, it is a genuinely life-altering discovery. Welcome back. On this channel, we go deep on specific coins and the real stories behind their value. Subscribe and hit the bell right now. We release new content every single week, and the next video could be about a coin you already own. Today, we have 6 coins. 3 from the United States, 3 from Britain. All 6 are still being found in old collections, coin jars, and estate sales right now by people who have absolutely no idea what they are holding. We are going in order from least to most valuable. And the very last coin, a British penny that looks identical to every other British penny ever minted, has a 3-second test hiding inside it that could change your financial situation permanently. 6 coins, 2 countries, 1 video. Let us go.